Hey, what's going on, people? It's your favorite hostess with the mostest. This is Worldwide V here, and I got a special guest today on with us. I got a good friend of mine, someone I've been seeing blowing up and doing a lot of great things in this music game, and he goes by the name of Izzy. He represents a great band called Twitch, but I'm going to go ahead and let him explain who he is really quickly. Hey, Izzy, to all the fans that are listening right now, could you just give them a quick breakdown of who you are? Okay, perfect. All right, so let me ask you this really quickly, Izzy. So how did Twitch originally come together, and what inspired the name of the band?
Well, we got together a bunch of guys, a couple of people actually in the band. We actually grew up together as kids, right? And played in like garage bands and stuff. And it just formed from there. And then we, as we grew up to be adults, we just wanted to get into like the songwriting aspect of things, So we went more into that kind of it. And the band's name just came from basically movement. How when you write a song or hear a song, you move to it a lot, right? So
Yes.
we noticed the people were really grooving to the song.
Okay, dope. Absolutely. Now, I know a lot of artists have inspirations, like people who they heard when they were little that made them like, made them feel like, hey, this is what I want to do for a living. This is what, I want to do with the music industry. So let me ask you this, Izzy. What bands influenced you guys' sound and stage presence the most?
A lot of bands, I would say, when we were kids, a lot of bands from the late 60s and, even the early 60s when we were real little. We grew up listening to, like, as a kid growing up, listening like to the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, people like that. Remember seeing the Doors when I was a kid. I sat on the same stage with Jim Morrison, the Doors.
Wow.
And, he invited everybody up on the stage, right? I sat between him and Robin Krieger and just watched the magic that he did, and that inspired me as a singer and a frontman to, really, because he was so charismatic, right, at the same time, and he just had that ability to, draw attention to the music too.
Yeah, now that's a pretty interesting story. Absolutely. So my next question, right? How would you describe your music to someone who's never heard it before?
It's funny you say that. We've been lately, when we're doing shows, people will come up to us and they, how people try to coin you. They try to put a label on you. And we've been labeled, actually, and we kind of like it. Our management, our record company kind of like it. So we've been coined psychedelic goth. So there you go.
I know that's right. Now, I got a chance to see you guys, info, and that you guys have performed at some legendary places and opened up with some legendary names. Now, what's one memory or turning point that made you realize you were meant to do this full time?
Probably playing places like the Whiskey A Go-Go in Los Angeles. And the Whiskey is one of those legendary places that you play that, you have to get your game up.
Yes.
You'll be down there and you're playing, and the night before, Alice Cooper plays, or
crazy. Yep.
And then the next night, coming up after you play, you got Chicago. You got like bands that have been playing for decades, and they're just like, the shows are phenomenal. So you rise to occasion, because when you're playing in a place like that too, it has so much history. So like before the last time when we played down there, one of the girls in my band were she was kind of nervous, right? And I just looked at her and I sat her down and I said, "See that green room we're in?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, great flick, Chefs and Airplanes, just sat there. Janis Joplin's been in that room." I says, Heart's been in that room. I says, you name all the great singers that that's represented you over the years. I've been on that stage. So I says, tonight you got to put all of your nervousness aside, and you got to be able to deliver to the crowd, right?
Yes.
And that's what it is. You got to come up. Those bands teach you to come up to that level where you have to be on. 24/7. You have to be focused, and you got to give your best show.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you played some iconic venues like Whiskey A Go Go and the Hard Rock in LA and, so many others. Which shows stand out as your most unforgettable and why?
I think one of them was the Hard Rock in LA, because when we played the Hard Rock, I'll tell you a quick funny story about that. We were touring down the west coast of the U.S. there, and my guitar player at the time, he's not in the band anymore, one of the guys, he forgot his guitars. Can you believe it? He left his guitars back in Vancouver.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So we're playing Tacoma in Washington State, just around Seattle. And so we're playing Tacoma, and we get there, and we get in the door, and actually what happened is he just finished moving to a new place in Vancouver. So of course he left his guitars packed away somewhere. So that's why he forgot them. And so anyways, we open up the truck, and all of a sudden we look and we go, we got no guitars.
Oh, wow.
What are we gonna do? And it's 7:00 at night, and all the music stores are closed.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We go inside and we tell the promoter that we know. We said, "Hey, we got a problem." And he goes, "If you think one of the other bands will lend us a guitar?" He says, "Probably not." I says, "Well, what are we going to do?" So we look around on and this big, huge bar, and we look and we see guitars all on the walls from different artists that played there. So he picked one of these guitars and said, "Can I take one of those off the wall and see if they work?" He says, "Well, let me ask the manager, the owner of the bar." He asked the guy. He says, "Yeah, you guys can do that." So he takes one down, picks it all up, get it ready, change the strings. Up we go. We play. We do fine, And so the next day, somebody came down who brought the guitars down to us, right? His guitars, and we continued on with the tour. Well, all the way down the tour, we had bands, we had people following us online, and we finally get to the Hard Rock. It was just packed. It was a great show, and the place was packed. We had all of these big record executives watching us. So it was kind of a really, surreal moment,
Yes.
And in the green room, George Lynch walks in.
Oh, wow.
And you know what? The guitar belonged to George Lynch. So George has been following us all the way down from Tacoma, all the way from, Seattle, San Francisco. He's been following us all the way down. And he comes walking in the room. He goes, "Where's the guitar player in your band?" He goes, "I just finished watching your show. You guys are really good. Where's that guitar?" That was my guitar. I didn't see it, So he goes over to the guitar player and goes, "Hey, where's my guitar you were playing?" He says, "Oh, I left it back at the bar where you signed it and left it with the owner." So then
Yeah.
he goes, "Oh, okay. I thought you took it." It was just the whole thing that night was, I think the Hard Rock in LA packed about 300-400 people. It's huge, and it was just jammed to the rafters, and we had a great show. And like I said, there was a lot of record executives were there, and a lot of big touring companies were there, and they just, they inundated our management like we love this band, we want this band, right? So there was a lot of that, a lot of hype, and it felt good. The show was good, and we felt good, and we really enjoyed it. And that it was kind of magical because you kind of, as an artist, you get that kind of recognition, right? And
Yes.
we got it. We definitely got it. Yeah.
Okay, dope. Now, you shared the stage with some legends like Blue Oyster Cult, Jefferson Starship. I mean, what did you learn from those experiences?
What I learned was, especially when you said songwriting, so those acts, you open up for them and they got huge hits, right? They got songs that everybody basically knows. What we learned from that was that, we at the time didn't have huge hits. We had really good songs, and we were getting airplay like we do now, but we didn't have, great big hits like they did. And what we learned that we had to make sure we made a point to bring the songs across in a way that, the songs were represented, and the band, as artists, we were putting on a show. So yeah, we had to try to show those bands, like, as far as like, jumping all over the damn place on stage, doing everything we can, to get the crowd going. And
Yeah.
that was our job. And, we did that. And it was, we were successful because the acts, this ship, Starship, I met a few of the people in the band. Paul Cantor, I met Paul Cantor.
Wow.
Paul Cantor was really nice, and straight
Mm-hmm.
up about he really liked the band. And all those people, Boyers, Dakota, they were really good. Buck Dharma, he was a nice guy. He was super cool. And so it was really nice to meet them. We opened up for Hector Winters. And we also opened up for Rick Derringer. And Rick Derringer, I know he just passed away. God bless Rick Derringer. He was such a nice guy. He was such a nice guy. I met him 3 or 4 years later at a Rock and Roll Revival show in Bellingham, Washington. I went down to see them. I flew down there because Vancouver's just on the border, right, of Bellingham. And so I went down there with a couple friends, and they were playing, and, he saw me in the lobby of the hotel, and he came up and talked to me, and said he, glad to see me again, right? And he was nice, so nice, we ended up going to have dinner with the guy, right? It was super nice to meet him. So you form those relationships with those people you don't think you do, but they start talking to you, because they're just people too, right?
Yes, yeah, that's an amazing story right there. That is amazing. Piece of history, absolutely. Now, one of the things I usually ask people is like, what's one of the wildest or most unexpected things that's ever happened during one of your performances? But you mentioned the no guitars, and, a bunch of other things at like 7 p.m. at night. But I mean, if you had one other than that one, I mean, I definitely would love to hear it. But that seems like it might be one of the top of the most unexpected things.
I'll tell you an interesting one here.
Okay.
We're playing in Oakland at the Stork Club, and I think it was our first time there, maybe our second time. And somehow it was our first time, and we actually got lost because we were on our way to San Francisco. So what was happening? We were going down. We're going Sausalito or something like that, and we're on our way down, going south, anyways. And anyways, we're going south, and we lost our way up to find the highway. So we ended up in some industrial part of town, and it wasn't very safe. Let's put it to you that way. And we sort of thought, okay, we're in trouble here. Like, our license plate say, Canada. We're in some bad district, and so just like here in Vancouver, you come as a visitor, you end up in the bad part of town. It's not fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Not at all.
Like any big city. So
Yes.
we get lost, and so, we were lost, and, basically some guy at 3 in the morning rides up on a bicycle and he knocks on our window, and I said, don't roll down the window. And, of course, the guitar player rolls the window. I'm going, you may have a knife, you might have a gun, don't do that, right?
Yes.
And of course, he goes down the window, and the guy says, hey, my name is Mike, and the people call me Oakland Mike. I says, okay, hi, Oakland Mike. And he goes, for $5, I'll tell you how to get to the highway.
Yeah.
I said, pay the guy $20. The guy was nice. He says, you guys this is not nice area. I'm not just saying that.
Yeah.
This is not good. This is not good. So, so we give him $10 or something, and he points at the sign like 5 minutes away. And the sign's right there. For some strange reason, we didn't see the sign, but, it was an interesting story because, we got lost, right?
Yeah.
Got lost before we actually got lost. And it was like, wow, okay, we gotta be careful,
Yeah. No, absolutely. That definitely sounds like an experience. So let me ask you this. Walk us through your songwriting process. Like, does the music come first or does the lyrics?
That's a good one. It varies. It really varies. Sometimes if I'm songwriting, if I bring in the whole idea, because there's 7 people in the band, believe it or not, we all have a say in what moves down in the process of it until we get into the studio. And then, of course, when we get into the studio, we have a producer, right? He produces it. But it varies. I can write sometimes I write the lyrics first, and sometimes I write the music first, and sometimes once in the blue moon, the whole thing comes to you at once. But for me, it's kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this. How do you decide which songs make it from the studio to the stage?
From the studio to the stage.
Yep.
Well, yeah, it basically when we rewrite. So, say we're going to go back in the studio probably in January coming up. We'll go back in, and what we'll do is we will put together about maybe 5 songs, and if we have that many written, this time we've been lucky. We wrote about 7 songs. So,
Okay.
and it came out pretty quick. You know, it happened really quick. I think we spent a month where we just sat in our studio and just wrote, and 7 songs, and you know, four weeks, right? It was kind of like, holy smoke, what's going on here? So
Yeah.
we wrote a lot of. We were very creative. We wrote a lot of stuff, and then what happens? Our management and our record label will listen to all 5, and so they will decide which ones are getting recorded.
Yeah.
So they would decide, and then from there, once it's recorded, then we'll go out and put the ones out that are being, you know, going to be released, right? You know, put on, you know, Spotify or wherever, or you know, and the radio stations all over the globe where we would get a lot of radio tracking and do a lot of stuff like that, you know.
Okay.
That's how it works, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, me and you, we come from a different age and a different generation than some of our listeners here. So let me ask you this. Now, I know your songs are on multiple platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, TikTok, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But how has streaming changed your approach to releasing music in this new day and age?
Huge. I'm glad you asked that.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, we're like in this neck of the woods over here in the northwest side of North America. What we've done is we turned around, and when we were in LA last time we were in LA, our manager used to put on a music seminar, and
Okay.
he would have all these big producers, people come and, you know, talk and ask questions.
Okay, understandable. Okay. Okay. Wow. Wow.
And we're getting bands now locally that are asking us
Yes.
start to actually bring acts in, and they'll open up for 30 minutes, and we'll close the show. And you know, we don't charge a penny for it. We just do it live.
I know that's right.
Yeah, and I think that's the way to do it, right?
Yes.
Because shows are so expensive nowadays. I think I was watching Bill Maher the other day on TV. and Bill was saying, like, Taylor Swift, for instance, is $4,000 tickets.
Yeah,
You know what I
they're
mean?
out of control. And I mean, these are arenas they're charging that, with thousands of people. But yeah, I have seen that, times have definitely changed.
Yeah, and I mean, you're looking at, like a band that I like, a modern band, is I like Ghost, right? And Ghost tickets in Vancouver, like they're playing February 14th here, and the tickets are, $4,000 to $3,000, the best seats. Like, I'm going like, holy! I saw them 5 years ago, and they were like, like $50.
Yeah, yeah.
What the hell happened here?
Yes, exactly. And especially with the economy going crazy, like people don't have that type of money nowadays. So I don't know how prices are going up, especially food, tickets, venues, concerts. I mean, it's a very interesting time to be alive. Very interesting.
It sure is.
Yes.
Yeah, when we were talking to you earlier about going out and doing groceries, I was thinking, yeah, I did groceries the other day, and I bought a little steak. A little steak was $25.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, I'm just going like, wow.
Yep. Exactly.
I can't believe it. Like food prices, I know in the U.S. and Canada are really bad. I don't know about the rest of the world, but I know they're bad in Canada and the U.S.
Oh yeah, now they're definitely here too. Yep. Definitely here.
Yeah.
Tariffs
We're
and
like
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, we're like you guys. We're suffering with that too. We have that issue too. It's like huge, and
Yeah.
nobody's paying attention to it because they're just gouging away, right?
Yeah.
So far as the music goes, yeah, we like to give it away because when we do gigs, we get paid at our shows, but the thing is that's fine. But when we're streaming it live and on our own time, we give it away. We says, you know what, we're not going to charge a red cent, and that could be part of why our numbers are up because people. They're not doing nothing. They're sitting at home. They can watch our streaming,
Yeah, exactly. Now, with over 500K plus YouTube views, what's been more, or I guess your most successful video performance so far?
I would think probably the biggest one we did if I'm correct, we did one where there was a music venue in Vancouver that's a hall, like it's a music venue they use as a hall.
Okay.
It's a hall, and what's happened with that venue is it suffers over the years. So far as business goes and keeping it open, and so they've been doing kind of like special shows where you can donate money to the cause to keep the place open, right? To keep
Yes.
it open, for venues, and so that show was really good, and we got the biggest views on that. I don't know why. It just was one of those that just did really well. We got I think on that venue alone, on that one, within 3 hours we were at 4,000 or 5,000 people.
Yeah.
And the venue only seats like two to maybe 800 people, but we had 5,000, 6,000 on view within 2 hours. We're going like, holy smoke, we're going gangbusters here, right?
Yeah.
That's within 24 hours, right? One day.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's definitely crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the show sounded good and looks good because the sound in that place was amazing. The sound man's amazing, and the stage is big. And it's a great little venue. If you've seen it, you go like, "Oh, this is cool. I'm glad they're saving this venue, right?"
Yeah.
It's a cool venue. It's in the heart of the city. It's like in the heart of East Vancouver, not really the downtown, but so it's a neighborhood. It's a neighborhood thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we do something with bands every so often. I think the next thing we're going to do will probably be in March over in New Jersey. I would love to definitely, off air, maybe discuss bringing you guys out and maybe doing something out here. But let me ask you this. I know you mentioned you do a lot of content and you've been adapting with the times when it comes to content and social media. So what kind of content seems to resonate the most with your audience online?
Go down that. Go ahead. Say that again.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, what kind of content seems to resonate the most with your audience online, with the content that you guys create?
Basically, I think it's just I would say probably way we run the show. The content is when we play, everything is just like pretty much run back to back, right? So
Yeah.
we don't stop and chat. We go from one song into the next. It's a real tight show, and so I think people like that. Like, there's not a lot of just talking and in between tunes and hey, there's Bob on guitar. We don't do stuff like that. It's just bang into the next song, bang into the next song, and so I think the content of it is that the show is tight. The music's tight.
Yes, absolutely. So I know we're heading toward the end of the conversation, and it's been a wonderful kind of conversation so far. So I had to do something, obviously to end it with a bang. But let me ask you this: what's next for Twitch? And new albums, singles, or tours? What should we expect or look out for?
I would say we're going to have a new single coming out in the next little while. We got one out right now.
Okay.
It's called "End of the World." I think you'll like this. It's 9 minutes long.
Oh, yes. Good music. Absolutely. That's something that people can appreciate this day and age, because everything now has been so watered down and saturated. You get a 1-2 minute, version of a song. I remember when that's how music used to be, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 or 9 minutes, you know what I mean? Of just good quality music.
Well, what we did is we didn't plan on that. We just, we wrote this tune and it just kept getting longer. And it was kind of like, when we were into producing it, and our producer just looked at us and he went like, this thing's like 9 minutes long, right? He goes, "Are you guys all crazy or what?" And we went, "No, this is going to be an epic tune. We're writing an epic tune. We don't care."
Exactly.
We wrote it, and we based it on like the wildfires that were going on down on the like in Canada and the U.S. And
Yes.
You see the footage of people, running from the fires, and same up here, like, the skies are gray, cloudy, and you smell the smoke in the air, and the homelessness that goes on in the big cities, we've got that here too, really bad. Like in Vancouver, there's a section of East Vancouver that is the poor section in Canada. It's about a 7-block radius, and everybody's living on the streets.
Yeah.
If you've seen it, you would go like, holy.
It's like a horror movie. Yeah, I can only imagine. Absolutely.
It is like that. Snoop Dogg was here about a year and a half ago, and he somehow somebody asked him to come walk down and look at what was going on, and he couldn't believe it. He said, "I don't know what you guys are going to do with this." He says, "This is really bad. You think LA's bad? This is really bad."
Yes.
And it is. It's really bad and really sad.
Yes,
because
it was.
People have nowhere to go, and they're all, they got serious problems, serious issues, and we based it on all that. Emily, my other singer in my band, she wrote the lyrics for the song, and she just one day it popped in her head what I said, and she just sat down and wrote all the lyrics, and it isn't trying to be pessimistic or be talk bad about the world. It's about making people wanting to know that, be aware of what's really going on. Like, it's like we're just talking about the food out of pricing and stuff, and concerts are really expensive. Like you said, really interesting times. So we wrote about something that is really, what is really going on. Like, is this,
Yes.
this is what the end looks like? What the heck's going on?
Yes, yep, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I got a chance to see, the devastation that happened here in the States. I didn't get a chance to see anything other than what was broadcasted on the news, what would happen in Canada, but my heart went out to all of you guys, everybody. I mean, it was definitely something I think that really touched and woke the world up, you know what I mean? And, it's been crazy to see, like, these last couple of years have been, in my personal opinion, like, and I'd say, like, in the past 100 years, like, as far as catastrophic events, we tend to see a pattern where they're happening a lot more frequently, more than ever before right now. And it's very interesting to see.
Yeah, and it's everywhere, right? I mean,
Yeah, everywhere.
right,
Yep.
everywhere, and people say, "Oh, it's here, it's not there." Yeah, no, it's everywhere in Canada and U.S. I'm sure it's going on over in Europe and places.
Yep.
You know, I'm sure because you can see it. I mean, the other day I came home. I live in East Vancouver, and the nicer side of East Vancouver. It's a nice neighborhood. I came home, and there was a guy. Get this wrong. There was a guy right in front of my door on the cement floor on the sidewalk, passed out, all his clothes and all his stuff, all his belongings spread all over the sidewalk.
Wow.
And I didn't even know if he was dead or alive, you know?
Yep.
And somebody was talking to him, and he was answering back, but like I was just like, man, this stuff is right on my doorstep.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't live in like a bad neighborhood. It's everywhere. And
yeah.
It's just like, wow. You know, I that hits home, right? All of a sudden,
definitely.
Like, wow.
Definitely.
You know, I actually feel lucky and blessed that I live in a place where, you know, I have my own place and I don't have to worry about that, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's sad. It's sad, but it is. I think if we look at that side of it, you got to look at what is going to be the better alternative, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we wrote the song, and now we've got a video out too. It's 9 minutes. If you watch the video, you know you're going to have to eat popcorn.
Yeah.
It's 9 minutes long.
Well, I know the fans are about to hear it. You know, I know they're definitely going to hear it and chime in. And I'd love to hear you guys' opinion. Let us know if you love the record. And also, I know we have been detouring a little bit toward the left, but I'd love to get back on track for all of you guys that are listening to Izzy right now. Izzy, what advice would you give the upcoming bands trying to break into the live circuits and festivals?
I would say the best thing to do is you got to be very determined, and you got to be definitely you have to be very what's the word I would use? I would use the word you have to persevere. That's a good term. I would persevere, and you have to keep going. And remember, the biggest thing out of all that is you got to write really good songs. You know, you got to craft and write really good songs because there's not enough of that nowadays, right? I think that's the biggest thing music lacks. Is if it lacks anything, it lacks the quality, right? Because like we're talking, when we grew up and listened to all these bands when we were kids, there was quality, man. There was, and that's why these songs last the time, taste of time. You know, they're just there, right? And so it's quality. You got to sit down and you got to really work hard and craft those songs. Those songs will get you to where you want to go if they're really good songs. People will listen to a really good song. Because one thing, the best comment I ever got was we played live somewhere, and I had people come up to us afterwards and say two things. And that you asked what actually this is what was the best thing that I ever took from it live, especially was people came up to me and said, "You guys write really good songs."
Yes.
And I tell you, well, that made me that made my day. Not about playing on the stage and getting the crowd going. None of that. It was that like those people really liked the music, and I was like, wow, cool. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I live for, right? You know?
Yeah. And the one thing I love that you brought up is taking time to make a record. Like a lot of people nowadays have the luxury of just like, you know, finding a beat or, you know, finding a trendy sound and trying to emulate that sound, and they can get some mediocre success by sounding or emulating, you know, somebody else. And, you know, all great artists still to a certain degree. But, you know, we come from a generation where it was like more organic sounds, rhythm, where you really had to like, you know, in order to be a producer, you had to have like 10,000 hours of producer time under your belt. In order to be considered a songwriter, you had to be, you know, someone who did songwriting for a living. Nowadays, you can just, you know, pick up something, use a little bit of AI and get a deal in like 5 or 6 months. You know what I mean? Get some integration tools, buy a beat. You know, we come from a different era where you really had to put out about timeless music and timeless records. And I see a lot of music nowadays, it's really trendy records, and it's not really timeless music. Yeah, it's good enough for the moment, but it's very rare that in this day and age we'll see a lot of artists who may stand the test of time of 10, 20, 30 years or 100 years where the music is still going to be in rotation or whatever. And it's very interesting to see, like, there's a lot of new music out there, a lot of great music, but it's not a lot of timeless music coming out right now.
That's right. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah, no, I agree 100% with it. Yeah, there's great music right now, but it's not timeless. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I totally agree with you, and I think that's the part that people have to latch onto. And I think, you know what that is? I think that's authenticity.
Yes. Yep.
Not copying some sound, or like you said, a trend. I think what speaks to people is if it's real. What they're doing is real. That person, that's real. That person's really cool. The way they come across when they play the guitar or sing, and that's the difference. Because you ask somebody like a big artist like Paul McCartney or the Rolling Stones, and if they look at another artist, they're looking for authenticity. They're looking what's making them feel good about that artist, right? And that's what it is. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, authenticity is lacking huge.
Yep, absolutely. I remember one time I was at XM Radio, and I was working with K Slay, and I just happened to go in like the hallway, and like in the hallway you'll see like all these different celebrities from different generations and different genres of music, and I ended up bumping into this guy named Peter Asher. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Peter Asher.
Yes.
Yeah, really great conversation. I didn't even know who the guy was at first. And then, and he was very humble, very down to earth. I ended up leaving later, took a picture with him or whatever. He was somebody famous there for an interview. He told me his name. I was like, hey, I can get a quick picture or whatever. And, got his information. And then I went to look him up and saw that this dude wrote for the Beatles and some of the biggest names in rock in the Hall of Fame. And I'm like, this is crazy. I didn't know, because he was just such a humble, down to earth guy. You would have never thought. Yeah, it was really, really a dope experience. I don't know why, but that just made me think of that. When you think of timeless music, I got to meet somebody who wrote some really timeless records, and I didn't even know who he was until I got to do a little research on him. But I knew he was somebody because he was in the building. But I know we've been doing this for almost 40 minutes now. I know we do have to go wrap it up soon. So I'm going to go with my final question, and I'm going to ask you this, Izzy. When fans hear the Twitch, what do you ultimately want them to feel or remember when it comes to the Twitch?
I want them to feel and experience the music, the sound of the music, the sound of the quality of what we're trying to bring across, and feel it. So it's all about feel, right? At the end of the day, so I want them to feel the vibe, feel the music. And feel the generations of music that we've listened to come through us, Because I know that's the biggest with people, right? That's what people do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I agree on so many different levels, Izzy. Definitely. Well, this has been a wonderful and amazing interview, and I want to thank you for coming on, Izzy, because I really appreciated it, loved it. It was definitely a vibe. And for all of you guys listening, I want you guys to go ahead and hear the new single. Izzy, you want to go ahead and let them know the new single so they can hear it, and we're going to play it now.
It's called End of the World.
By the Twitch. Take care. Check this out, guys. All right.